welcome everyone. We want to welcome you. My name is Susan Earl and I'm the chapter regent of the Attleboro Daughters of the American Revolution. And I want to welcome, we have our state historian here, Charlene Goddard-Lyle. She's here. Where's Charlene? Hello. I just saw her. Did she go upstairs? Well, she was here. We had our state rep, Jim Hawkins, came, so that was nice. And welcome to everyone who's here today. And also, I just want to thank Jill, Matthew, and the 300th Anniversary Committee and everyone that's helping today, making it such a special day for us. And a little bit about us and what we do. We're a national society, we're a Massachusetts State Society, and we're a local chapter. And our mission is historic preservation, education, and patriotism. We're also a nonprofit organization. To carry out our mission, we provide scholarships to Attleboro High School seniors.
You're saying all the things I'm going to say.
Citizens awards. So I'll just briefly wrap it up then and say, Marian is going to talk about our chapter house. And one of our things is historic preservation. And we maintain this chapter house, which we're all so proud of. And this is our beloved Peck House and our anniversary. So, without giving out too much away,
Too late.
Say that our local historian and member Marian Wrightington is going to give us a talk.
Okay.
Thank you, Marian. Welcome.
Thank you, Sue. So welcome. Thank you all for coming. Can you all hear me okay? If you can't, I can try to bring it up, or just raise your hand and go like this, and I'll try to make it a little bit louder. I wanted to talk about my outfit first because I don't want you sitting there all thinking about it while I'm talking. My dress is original. It's from the 1890s. It was in my family. The apron is all hand embroidered, and I cannot for the life of me understand why somebody would take all this time to embroider this like this for something they were going to wear around the house. And then, wait till you see my petticoat. My petticoat is 12 feet around the bottom. 12 feet. And it has no machine stitches on it whatsoever. It's totally done by hand. All the hand punching for the eyelet holes and all the work of the embroidery around each hole is all done by hand, and it goes all the way around the back. 12 feet of it. Unreal. Wow. Wasn't too easy going up those stairs, I'll tell you. So anyway, that's my outfit. I'm going to tell you, like Sue just did, but repetition is always good. That's how you remember, right? What DAR is and does, and then share the history of the house with you. DAR is a national volunteer service organization, and they're dedicated, like she said, to promoting patriotism and preserving American history. I've been a member for 46 years, and my mother and my grandmother were also DARs. Each member must prove their lineage directly back to someone involved in the American Revolution. National DAR now has about 190,000 members. Our little Attleboro chapter here that was started in 1901 by Marian Pierce Carter, we only have about 60. But that's good. These are a few things we do. Again, like Sue told you. We provide 2 scholarships to Attleboro High School seniors. We sponsor the Good Citizenship Program to 5 local area schools. We honor an outstanding American history teacher every year. We donate Christmas items to the local veterans. You can sit on this couch down here too if you don't have space.
Right here.
Okay, hi.
Thank you.
We put flags on the veterans' graves for Memorial Day, and we hold an open house here every year at the house. So that's what we do. If any of you are interested in joining, we can help you with your genealogy to see if you are eligible. And so we're always trying to preserve American history and promote patriotism. Our most obvious way is the preservation of this house. Once upon a time in Attleboro, there was a little house built in 1723. It has architectural significance because of the fact that the front of the house, there's only 2 gambrel roofed houses from the 1700s left in Attleboro now. There were 3, but now there's only 2. And one of them is down on 123. It's blue and it's on the right-hand side, and that's one's also 1723. He's got a big banner out on the front of it today, right now, saying happy birthday to the house. But this does have significance, and the only thing that is very fancy about it is right along the front roof line there is some dental molding, but the rest of it is all pretty plain. Gambrel roofs gave them more room on the second floor, so that's why they became popular. Our door is probably original too. It has 2 little glass windows at the top to illuminate the inside of the house, because of course they had to lighten it up with candles. And we have a large chimney that supports the 4 fireplaces and 1 bake oven. The foundation's made out of stone. Back then, in 1694, when Attleboro was first established, everybody lived on a farm, and everybody sustained themselves. They all had their own pastures for their animals and their gardens for their vegetables, and that's what they did. But then, along in the 1800s, we became a textile town, and we had the Dodgeville and Hebronville textile factories. And this, does anybody know what this is? Shuttle. Okay, good. This is an old one, real old one, and this is a newer one. You might recognize this more easily. You had to have a shuttle for the textile factories because the shuttle took the thread or the yarn back and forth across the loom to weave the fabric. And Colonel Blackington, who never lived in the Blackington Inn, that's a house, he had that house built for his 2 sons. He lived across the street in what was the Nobbycrafter house. And out behind that, he had a shuttle shop. And he made the shuttles for our textile mills here. And it was a very good business, I guess. So, but at the same time we were doing all this textile business, we were also becoming a jewelry town. And the manufacturing started of jewelry, and it really got going. And today I wore this bracelet. This bracelet is called the expansion band. The expansion band was invented by Mr. Tappan. And I don't know if any of you remember the Tappan house that was down next door to the hospital. It was a 27-room, 3-story mansion built in the early 1900s, and the hospital tore it down. But Mr. Tappan was in the jewelry business, and he invented the expansion band, and then he named this bracelet after he designed it, the Carmen bracelet, because Carmen was his favorite opera. And I have a picture, I don't think you can see that, but it's a picture of the Tappan house inside. And so we ended up being the jewelry capital of the world. So back to the little old house. I just love to throw in Attleboro history whenever I can. You have to bear with me. It is thought that Thomas Sweet built this house down on 123, in 1723, I mean, down on County Street across from Capron Park. He married Rebecca Peck in 1728, and they had a lot of children. Back then, they all had a lot of children. 4 of their children were actually soldiers in the Revolutionary War. They all slept in beds if they could in the houses, and if they didn't, they'd sleep on straw mattresses in the attic. But the beds they slept in were called rope beds, and they had ropes woven into the bed frame in such a way that it would hold up. The mattress was like a bag of straw. It was more or less. It was like just a pillowcase full of straw, but the size of the bed. And after a while, after you'd slept in it, it might start to sag. They would take this rope bed key, it's also called a bed wrench, and they would stick it in the loop at the corner. They knew how to weave these in such a way that this works. They'd stick it in, and then they'd just turn it like this, and that would make it the whole thing tighter again, and they'd be able to sleep on it for another couple months before it would sag again, and then they'd start doing it. And this is after they got it tight, they stuck this in the hole with it so that it kept it there. But that's where the expression sleep tight came from. And don't let the bed bugs bite, because the straw in the mattresses did draw bugs. So pretty soon, the house was no longer large enough for this family. So the wife had another house in her family that was over across the street where CVS is. And that wasn't that occupied, that there wasn't more room there for more family. So they decided to move this house from down on County Street to over there where CVS is. And they thought nothing of moving a house back then. They would put it on logs, and then they would have the horses or the oxen or whatever they had pull it all the way through the town to put it there. And they even actually, you know those stone steps that you stepped on when you came in the door, the front door? They brought those from County Street. It's crazy the things that they did sometimes. So many generations of Pecks had lived there, and the Peck burial ground is out behind the CVS parking lot. If you go as deep as you can into the parking lot, then on the side there's a burial ground. And so a lot of the Pecks are buried there, and I'm going to tell you some stories about that kind of thing. If someone died, they would have to wait a while to see if they were actually dead, because they didn't have stethoscopes and all that kind of stuff that we have today to find out if the person is actually dead. So they'd wait a while, and they wanted to wait to see if he was going to wake up. And that's why we have wakes today. That's why it's called a wake, because they were waiting to see if they were going to wake up. And they'd wait a while, and sometimes, yes, he was dead, and he might start to smell. So that would be when the little housewife would bring flowers in from her flower garden and take away the smell of that. And so that's why we have flowers at wakes, because originally it was take away the smell. But then they'd bury this after they decided it was dead. And I don't know why this is, but I don't know if they wanted to move a graveyard back then. The Peck one is still where it started, but they sometimes would dig up the grave again. And like I said, I'm not really sure why they did that. But sometimes they would open the coffin and see that there's scratch marks inside, which meant they didn't wait quite long enough. The guy was really alive. So they would dig it up and open the coffin, and they would see the scratch marks. And then they decided to start a new practice. They would tie a string around the supposedly dead person's wrist, and the string would come out of the coffin and up to ground level and be tied to a stick that was stuck in the ground that had a bell on the top of it. This all sounds crazy. And then they would have somebody sit in the graveyard all night long, listening for the bell to ring. And that's why if you worked nights, it was called the graveyard shift. That's why. And if he heard the bell ringing, then he would run and get some more men, and they would come over and they would dig the coffin up and get the guy out. It seems crazy, crazy. But he would sit there all night, and when they got him out, he was saved by the bell.
Oh my God!
You guys are a riot. And not only that, for the rest of his living life, he was called a dead ringer. So anyway, these are some Pecks. This is Hezekiah, and this is Sabra. And we don't know if they were husband and wife or sister and brother or whatever, because there were 5 Hezekiahs and 2 Sabras. So we'll never know. But they are buried in the Peck burial ground. So years went by, and all their children were grown and gone, and so that house was no longer being used either. And sure enough, the Simmons factory that made jewelry came along, and they wanted to build a new factory there on the river. And so Marian Pierce Carter, the lady who founded our chapter, she was again the leader of this project. She had them move the house over here. And so it's over here, and Simmons built their factory. You can see this. This is a picture of the Simmons factory when it was over there where CVS is. Some of you probably remember it. That's been torn down, and then they built the CVS. Capron Peck was one of the Caprons one of the Pecks that lived here. And this is his picture. And on the back of the picture, it says, Capron Peck, born in this house in 1797. His father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, and his great-great-grandfather lived on this plat. So that's Capron Peck. So we keep him hanging on the wall, and we'll keep trying to preserve this house. And if any of you have got any questions, I can try to answer them. But we hope you enjoyed your tour, and happy 300th birthday, house. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes?
2 questions. You said they had a lot of children. How many children did they have? And then is Capron Peck related to the Capron Park?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I could do another whole talk on caprins. I live in a capron house. My house is 280 years old, and it was the first house in Attleboro to go on the National Register, and it was a capron house. So all those caprins were definitely related. Yes. And the first part about who he was married, I don't know that, and I don't even know how you could figure that, because they died in childbirth sometimes, and you know, there was all different kinds of diseases that killed them. So to see a real record of, they didn't keep records like, well, we don't do it anymore like we did either, but yeah, that's very hard to guess. But most families had, you know, probably 8 was the average. Yeah. Yes?
I'm a historian. I've been over to the graveyard behind the city, yes. Is there a reason that, I mean, that just seems like it could be restored or secured, or possibly the stones could be, I know the originals probably couldn't be replaced, but that it could be put back into order? Because it seemed to me that, I mean, there was one marker there, and I'm like, it can't be. So,
Well, there's an obelisk in the middle.
Yes.
That's very nice. And then a lot of the gravestones, like you said, are knocked over. Some of them, the dirt has grown over them and
Yes.
everything. Yes. If you can get the city of Attleboro to do it, that would be very good. I'm the chairman of the Historical Commission. And yeah, and we used to have a program where we had kids come out from the schools and clean the cemetery once a year. You know, they'd rake the leaves and drag the branches away and things like that. They don't clean stones because there's certain, you have to be a technician of stone cleaning to do that. And so anyway, we used to do that. But then they started finding needles.
well, yeah.
And so we don't let them do that anymore.
I I grew up in Stoughton. I've lived here. This is the first time I ever saw this house open since I moved here in 2018. But, when I was in high school, I actually, and you can't do this anymore, I guess, but I wrote an article to the local paper in Stoughton, and I ended up putting a gate and closing off. There's a very old graveyard near the center of town, and people were cutting through, and it was trash. And they did that. I'm just interested in getting involved in that if it's something that might.
Okay. We did have a volunteer project going, the Historical Commission did, where you could sign up. There's forms you have to fill out and stuff if you wanted to clean a graveyard. We have several old vintage graveyards in Attleboro all over the place. And some of them are in very bad shape. But we've had, even when the kids were doing another thing that happened besides them finding needles, we had a girl that, it was the week before her prom, and she got poison ivy so bad, it was, so there's just so many things that can happen.
It would actually be a great thing if you want to write to the town, the city. It's owned by the city of Attleboro, so that would be great if you want to write to them or talk with them.
I'd like to do something, yeah. I mean,
that'd be great.
I know the funds, they're not gonna put that at the top of their list, but,
Well, thank you
They're-
for that. And we
they're
just
probably
gonna
not
see
gonna,
if anyone else has any more
Yeah.
questions at this point.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, we'll just.
no.
We only have a few more minutes.
Well, let me just say that on if you go to Attleboro, City of Attleboro, the Historical Commission website has a little form you can fill out if you want to clean a cemetery.
I will.
Okay, all right, okay. Yes?
I was just curious to know when the last people lived in this house?
We bought this house in 1902. And so no one has lived in it since then, and we've kept it like this.
Has there ever been any investigation about the original paint colors?
Not that I know of.
They haven't gone down through the layers to see what might have been here 200 or 250 years
Very
ago?
good question.
No, but this color red is one of the colors that was used back then. Oh, interior. Well, because I live in an old house, I've looked into that a lot too. And most of the woodwork for this time period, which my house would be the same time period, was either the olive green, soldier blue, they call it, barn red, or gold. Mustard gold, they called it. Yeah. And, Jan?
I just wanted to bring up that we had all the windows replaced.
Yes.
And we paid for half, we got a grant to pay for half. And National DAR in Washington matched the grant.
Oh,
And then they had an article in one of their periodicals and showed pictures of our windows because we tried to keep them period accurate.
Right.
They are all historically correct.
So the ropes, like my mother's house, they got.
Oh, no, there's no ropes. Ropes were long after this. This is it. You just pull and you. My house is like this too. You kill yourself when they're swollen. Yeah, trying to get them up and down. Yeah. Anything else?
Somebody mentioned the caprins. You're doing a whole program on the caprins.
Oh yes.
Is it November?
She's with the Historic Preservation Society, so she's trying to get a plug in here. Go Janice! Yes, the January meeting of the Attleboro Historic Preservation Society, which is held over at the Industrial Museum, is going to be all about the caprins from Attleboro. Yep. So everybody's invited to that. It's open to the public. So go about the house and have some desserts and enjoy it.